Hey everybody, what's going on? It's James here with Crypto Common Sense, and I have your Bitcoin/cryptocurrency update for December the 8th. So I didn't shoot an update video yesterday because not enough had changed to really warrant doing a whole nother video and basically repeating the exact same information that I had said on Friday. I wanted to wait till today. I wanted to wait till the daily close and also, of course, the weekly close to try to gather more information. And the more I look at this thing, the more confused and the more stumped I am. Now, that's probably not what you're looking to hear from somebody when you're watching their analysis, but I've got to say there's some really conflicting stories on the bearish side as well as the bull side. So I want to present both of those to you and kind of tell you my plan for staying safe over the next week or so. Before I jump into the content, please do me a huge favor. Go ahead and hit the thumbs up button on this video. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and don't forget to click the bell icon if you haven't already. So the first thing I want to talk about is this chart. This is actually a daily chart, and what I did was I scaled it out so you can actually see the last, it's roughly a year and a half. What I care about in this chart is one line and one line alone, and that is this RSI trend line that started in November of 2018, and we didn't really know much about it. We didn't know whether it was important to pay attention to, whether it was just a line, until it came down here. Now it had two touches. Again, still didn't seem all that important to me. Two touches, it could be anything, right? I could make any 2 points touch. But when we came down last week and we touched here, I didn't notice it. I hadn't zoomed down on it. It's kind of funny. I spend, probably 8 to 12 hours a day looking at charts. But for some reason, I hadn't zoomed out and taken a look at this on the bigger picture. If I had, I would have been much more bullish over the last week, and that would have been great. I probably would have made more money. I could have played it from a bull side versus shorting the moves. It is what it is. Too late to mess with that. But now it is important to pay attention to this because we have one touch, two touch, three touches, and those are perfect touches on that RSI trend line. And you can see that trend line is sloping upward. So what I want to see now is I want to see what happens when this RSI gets back down to this line. That's number one. Number two, that looks bullish to me. Okay? Not bullish in the case that, oh my God, the bottom is in, I've got to hurry up and reaccumulate my spot. No. I'm talking about bullish in the sense that, this could go up a little further before moving down. I still fully expect we're in a bear market. I still fully expect we're going to make a new low. Okay? This is just talking about the shorter time frame. So that's the first thing that I want to talk about. The second thing, the thing that in my mind matters even more, is this chart right here. Most people will tell you that Litecoin acts as a leading indicator for Bitcoin. I've talked about this in past videos. Oftentimes you'll see a move in Litecoin and then Bitcoin will replicate that move a month or 2 months down the road. Right now, Litecoin is doing it again, okay? On the right side of my screen, I've got this split. The left side is Bitcoin, the right side is Litecoin. Litecoin had the same thing with the RSI. See this one touch, two touch, three touches? Third touch was right here, okay? Now, here's Bitcoin. One touch, two touch, three touch. Now I want you to pay attention to the price action. Basically, it had come down through its 200 moving average on Bitcoin. It hadn't done that on Litecoin yet. It pumped up, put in a sloppy M or a sloppy double top here, if you got to discount the wick, and then it fell under the 200, just like Litecoin did right here, okay? Litecoin then moved down back to that RSI trend line, just like Bitcoin did right here. And then Litecoin had this up, down, up, down, up, right? And basically, if we're using this fractal to kind of try to predict where Bitcoin is going, we're about right here in the fractal, which means that from that point, Litecoin pumped up from around $71 all the way up to $80 before finally dumping and making a new low. That's a pretty big pump, right? It was a little over 10%, probably closer to 12% if I had to guess. So if we go over here to Bitcoin, and again, not so worried about the percents, I don't think it's that precise, but if we did pump 10 or 12%, that would put us right up around $8,400 or $8,500, which is an area of resistance on the daily chart, right? It would put us right up in this area. Again, I don't think it's that precise. I don't think we can really make that type of call. But I did find this very, very interesting, right? This happened to be right around the time that it fell through its 200, We just fell back through our 200. We're making a third touch. We're making a third touch, and price is similar. It's not exact, but it is similar. So that makes me lean bullish on the short time frame. Okay. Now I'm going to show you the bearish side because, like I said, I've probably never been more unsure about which way Bitcoin is going in the short term. I don't remember a week where I felt more frustrated than this past 4 or 5 days. Just completely been off my game. The last 3 trades I took, every single one of them got stopped out, only to watch all 3 of them hit their intended targets right after I got stopped out. There was 2 shorts that I got stopped out of. Price then moved down. And then there was 1 long position that I took yesterday where I got stopped out. It went $10 under my stop and then shot back up about $200 or about $180, whatever it was. So my timing has been terrible the last couple of days. My trading, I didn't make any money last week. I think that's probably the first week I had. I can't swear to it, but probably the first week I had in the last 6 months where I didn't make any money trading. Didn't lose a bunch of money, thankfully. I think I lost maybe 0.25% of my entire portfolio, so not a big deal, but just super unsure, right? So that's the bull side of things, and now I want to show you the bear side. So if we look at the 3-day chart, oh wait, this is more bull stuff. If we look at the 3-day chart, price is obviously putting in higher lows, while at the same time it's found resistance around the same area. To me, this looks like a potential ascending triangle trying to form. It's not an ascending triangle until it breaks the neckline and actually confirms, but I am keeping an eye on that. On my 3-day RSI, we just opened a new candle, right? Basically what I was looking for was a retest of resistance. You can see that happened right here on October 19th. We did get that retest on this candle that just closed about an hour ago. So it could be that, hey, look, we've tapped resistance. That's all we were going to do. And now we're going to move back down to the bottom of this box. And if so, I think that move to the bottom of the box would take us down back to our downward sloping trend line, right around 6 grand, 6,200 would be my guess. Okay, I don't think we're going to fall out of the trend just yet, but we could, right? But at 6,000 to 6,200, that would be my guess. If I had to guess, that's what I'd be looking for. So that's, the bearish side, I guess, if you want to call it that. We're sitting at resistance. Of course, this looks bullish to me. The price action looks bullish. The RSI looks bearish. Okay. So again, still not really a clear picture of what's happening. If we look at the weekly, obviously we just had a weekly close. It was a green candle. One thing that I do want to point out is, if you pay attention to this, we've only had one instance in the last 4 or 5 months where we had 2 weekly green candles in a row. We've only had 1 green candle, right? Relief bounce, red candle, relief, red candle. 2 greens, red candles, 1 green for a relief, 4 reds, 1 relief, 1 red, this scammy pump, 4 reds, and now we've had 2 greens again. So again, only the second time this has happened since the top in June. There's an argument to be made, hey, look, it's probably not going to put in a 3rd green candle. It hasn't done that one single time in this entire, bear market. And if you look back in 2018, it only did it once in 2018. No, it did it twice. I did it right here in 2018, and it did it right here in 2018. So I don't know that I want to put a bunch of money on the line based on this. Oh, well, there's probably not going to be 3 candles in a row, right? 3 green candles. I don't think that's really something that you want to trade off of, but it is something to note. That being said, when I look at this, RSI is still really, really low in this box. And the only time that RSI fell out the bottom of this box in 2018 was at the bottom of the bear market. So it would be unusual for this to turn around and suddenly fall out of the bottom of this unless we were bottoming. And I think we're too high to bottom. So when I look at this, it almost looks to me like we're going to do something like back here, right? Where we came down in June, we touched the bottom of this thing, we went up a bit, we had a bit of a pullback, right? This is the bearish case, if you will. We had the pullback, and then we had that move higher. And that would fit that narrative of moving down to around 6 grand or 6,200 and then pumping up to like 9 grand, right? Which is what I've been expecting, is a small drop first and then a pump up toward 9 grand to retest resistance. So RSI, it does somewhat support that narrative that is a possibility. Again, not guaranteed, right? Not even strong. It's not even a strong assurance that it's going to happen. It's very, very guessy, right? Very, very circumstantial. It's entirely possible that we're actually more like back here, and that we just happen to go a little lower, and that we're going to move back up to the top of this box before we go down more. Which, again, if that happens, I think we would go up and test 9100. 9100 is the number, right? That's the number I'm looking for, regardless of whether this goes up from here or whether this goes down to say 6,000 or 6,200 or even lower. I still think 9,100 is a completely legitimate relief target, right? Up around $9,000 to 9,100 bucks. And again, I think we'd have to watch RSI on the weekly and the 3-day to see what do they look like. Is it at the top of the weekly box? Is it at the top of the 3-day box? If it was at the top on both of those boxes while at the same time testing resistance, yeah, I'd feel very comfortable taking a short position. But again, we don't know. These higher time frames, they're very slow moving, and on the smaller time frames, like when we look at a 4-hour chart, there's nothing here that really gives me any clues. Like I can take off the EMAs because they're useless right now. Take off the 200 moving average, right? We had some important resistances. We're above them, right? But we're still inside of this. Basically, it's a triangle. This yellow line is the downward sloping trend line from June. We're still below it, but we're still above this upward sloping trend line, right? That started back in late November. So we're basically just stuck in this range. When I look at this, to me, this is a symmetrical triangle that entered from a moving down. So it looks like a continuation pattern, but not enough that I'm going to take a trade off of it. When we look at RSI, we had a bearish retest here, right? But now if we start drawing this back here, it could just as easily be said that, hey, this is the line right here, and that we're actually on top of it. So that doesn't give me any clear direction either. When I look at the hourly, right, take off the EMAs because they're just mashed up. It's basically ranging. Same deal here, right? We have those two lines I just talked about. Also, somebody could say, well, this was the line. We're underneath it, and this was a bearish retest. I don't think so, right? I think it's just ranging still. When we draw the hourly RSI, we had a bearish retest here. That was an easy short to take, right? We had a bearish retest here. Again, that would have been a short position that you might want to take. Of course, you wouldn't have made much because this damn range is so small, right? It dropped from the very, very top, only dropped about 1%. It's what's making it so difficult to trade. The ranges are so small that it's very, very hard to set a profit target, because if you're going for, say, okay, well, I'm in this range, it's 1%, I'll go for 0.5%. Fine, well, then you got to set a 0.25% stop loss to have proper risk reward. And with the volatility, with all these wicks and tails, that's what happened, right? I kept getting stopped out on these stupid wicks or these stupid tails, and then it would turn around and do exactly what I wanted. So for example, this tail right here stops me out of a long position by 10 bucks, and then it turned around and went up all the way up to 70, almost 7,600 bucks after stopping me out at 74.10, right? Very, very frustrating. Over here, I went short around 75.63, and then this wick stopped me out, and then it immediately, what did it do? It moved down to under $7,400. So the problem right now with trading this is you can't get a big enough profit target to justify the risk, and you can't get stupid with your risk and set it super wide, because then if you're wrong, you lose a bunch of money. So this is really, really frustrating for traders. But smaller time frame, like when I look at the hourly, this does look bearish, but again, it could go either way. I just think the safe play right now, me personally, for me, the safe play for me is I want to sit out. I don't want to try to force a trade where there's not a trade to take, and I don't want to try to chase a short position out of fear that I'm going to miss this drop, 6,000 or 6,200. Yeah, it's a nice drop. I mean, if this thing does move down from 7,500 all the way to 6,200, that's a $1,300 drop per Bitcoin, right? So there's some serious money to be made. But on the flip side, unless you're going to open up a trade at 7,500 and set a stop loss up around 9,500, right, there's a good chance that it's going to move up and stop you out. So this just looks really sketchy to me. I just think there's too many arguments to be made that are bullish, and I think there's too many arguments to be made that are bearish to really pick a side. And for me, I'm going to sit out, and I'm probably not even going to scalp this for the next day or two unless we can break out of this range. I just think right now, too small, too tight of a spot, and the wicks and tails are just too much. So when it gets like that, sometimes, as much as it sucks, you got to just wait. And as a day trader, that's super rough, because when I'm waiting, I'm not making money, right? But not losing money is better than chasing and getting burnt. So that's kind of what I'm seeing on Bitcoin right now. There's just a lot of stuff, and I think we're just going to have to wait and see how this week plays out. I'm hoping that tomorrow, being Monday, I'm hoping we get a better idea of what the market's going to do. Of course, we still have this tiny little gap. I don't care much about it, but we still have this tiny little gap on CME. That could easily come down on a wick, or excuse me, a tail, get filled and move right back up. So I don't care much about that. What I'm really interested in is to see if we can break south of this 74.40 line, because that is actually a very important level of resistance on the CME. Not resistance, sorry, support, right? I want to see us break south of that. And over on the Coinbase charts, what I'm really watching is a break south of, I think it's 74.30. Yeah, right around 74.30, right? I want to see it drop back underneath that. As well on the daily chart, you know, more confusion here. We've got this green upward sloping line, looks like a bearish retest, but now we have this upward sloping red line. Almost looks like a rising wedge in RSI, right, which tend to fall south. But again, we'll just have to see. One thing I will mention is if this does start to move down, if price starts to move down, what I would really be keeping an eye on, along with all the, you know, the 3-day RSI and the weekly RSI, I'd be watching what happens with this trend line. If price moves back down, let's just say hypothetically it moves down to $6,200. Well, if it hits $6,200 at the same time that it's pinging this RSI, you know, I'm probably going to buy back my spot. That's going to look bullish to me, right? Again, I have to wait and see what it actually looks like. I mean, there might be some kind of pattern in the chart that just looks ultra bearish, and I might say, no, I'm not touching that. But without having knowledge of what the chart's going to look like in a few days, if it happens, yeah, I would, you know, probably be looking to buy back spot at that level. Okay. I still think we're going much lower. Again, I don't want anybody to get confused. My macro view has not changed, right? When we look at the weekly, this is still very, very bearish, right? It's just a matter of what we do in the short term that's a little bit confusing. But long term, this looks a lot like 2018. We're testing the same levels that we tested back here. Of course, after we tested those back there, we moved down to 5,700 or so, 5,800, and then we moved back up to, you know, mid-8s. So I do think it's very possible we have a similar situation play out again. And I still think that when this is all said and done, we probably will go down to at least 4,100 and fill in this gap. If for some reason we don't get that low, I guess the first place that I would look and say, okay, this might be the bottom, would be if we get back to the 200 moving average. A 200 weekly moving average historically acted as the bottom in the 2015 bear market, and it acted as the bottom in the 2018 bear market. So if this is indeed a new bear market and it's not just one bear market, it could be that it again acts as the bottom. And of course, right now, that's sitting right around $5,000. Okay. So I'll be watching that as we get closer to that level. So let's take a look at some altcoins. I don't want to go through a bunch of alts today because with Bitcoin looking the way it looks, I just think that if you're playing alts for fiat pairs, I just think it's dangerous because you don't know what Bitcoin is going to do. If Bitcoin suddenly skyrockets, of course alts like to skyrocket with it, but if Bitcoin falters and starts to drop, a lot of these alt setups on the fiat pairs are going to be ruined. Okay, so Litecoin, it looks like it's stuck in a range. I was actually getting pretty excited about this a couple days ago, right? I kind of flip-flopped at first. I was like, okay, I'm super bearish, and I was like, wait a minute, there might be a swing trade here, right? This doesn't look great to me, right? Having these two wicks side by side like that, that doesn't scream bullish to me at all. Doesn't mean it won't go up, of course, but it's not the setup I'm looking for. You know, still above that trend line, so there's still some hope there. If we look at the 3-day chart, that 3-day candle is now closed. I think if this thing could move up and maybe break above this wick, maybe I would be interested in it. But even if I do take a position on it, which right now doesn't look like I will, it would be very small, right? I'm not interested in chasing these things down. When I feel like we're in a bear market, taking a long position is always extra risky, so the setup has to be extra clean. And this setup is just not as clean as what I would like. If we zoom in on the RSI and really get this put on there, if we line it up back here, you can see that it's actually underneath it. If we give it the benefit of the doubt, we use this line, still underneath it. If we use this point, still underneath it. If we use this point, okay, that's the only point where it's still above it, right? But that's really giving it a lot of leeway. And if we go to the weekly, and we draw this from the bottom over here and connect it, it just looks like a bearish retest. It just looks like it fell down, came over a bearish retest, and is now moving back down. So again, it's not that it means it won't go up. It just means that it's not as clean as what I would really like to see if I'm going to be taking a long position in a downtrending market. So without going, I'm probably not going to go through the alts today, guys. To be honest with you, I'm just kind of tired and a little bit stressed out watching Bitcoin. It's, one thing about being a trader and that being your core source of income is there are times where the market is just not cooperating, and it's very frustrating because it's not that I didn't work this week, right? It's not like I said I'm going to take the week off and then I went and had a vacation. I sat here all week, 60, 70 hours at my desk, literally 60 or 70 hours at my desk, and I couldn't get off one good trade, right? So it wears on you emotionally. Not emotionally like, oh, I'm going to go have a cry in the corner, but emotionally like you start to get frustrated, you start to get pissed off, and that's kind of where I'm at right now. Is I'm not sad, I'm pissed, right? I'm pissed that I wasted a week that I'll never get back and that I didn't make any money. But when I look at this, here's the EOS. It looks like it's trying to tuck back under its line, right? So I don't know. I don't know what's going on with these alts. Total market cap is still stuck in the same range it's been stuck in. It still has the same resistance right there that it's been unable to get through. So it's just, flip-flopping around in that range there. Let's look at dominance. Still above that 200 daily moving average on the dominance. So again, December 8th was the day that the alt season kicked off in 2017. Today is obviously December 8th. Technically, with the close being a few hours ago, Bitcoin is now trading on December 9th. We have not fallen underneath that 200 moving average. So it could be that it's just not going to happen, right? I mean, eventually it's going to happen. It always happens eventually, right? Give enough time, anything comes true almost. But it may not happen anytime soon, right? There's still a fairly large gap from this 200 to where that's at. And even after it breaks the 200, what we really want to see to get bullish on alts is we want to see it break it, come up and test it, and fail, right? So there's a whole lot that needs to happen before I'm going to get super bullish on altcoins. I think I'm going to go ahead and wrap up here, guys. The video is over 20 minutes as it is, and I think the core thing right now is to keep an eye on Bitcoin because Bitcoin is king, and it's really going to determine the direction that the market goes over the next couple of weeks. So with all that being said, please remember I am literally some guy sitting in a spare bedroom. Nothing in this video is financial advice or trade advice. You should always do your own due diligence and seek out professional investment advice before making any type of investment in cryptocurrency. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure and give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Also, don't forget you can check the description for links where you can follow me on TradingView, Twitter, where you can join my free Facebook group, and where you can join my trading course if you'd like to learn how to trade. This is James with Crypto Common Sense. Trade safe.